a pencil, how many people did John Wick kill with a pencil? Uh,
Yeah.
a pencil's a writing instrument, or it could be a weapon in the hands of John Wick. Welcome to episode 22 of the Frugal Firearms Podcast, the podcast that is here to help you get the most for your shooting dollar and the most enjoyment possible out of all the equipment that's out there that can be confusing because there's so much of it. And today is just a show with Ken and I. Nobody else, no guests. We're just reviewing equipment. We're reviewing various things that we think that you maybe are a little behind on, that we've paid attention to, that we want to bring you up to speed. So without further ado, I'm Craig, I'm your host, and Ken, say hi. You are the co-host.
I'm Ken. I'm the co-host. We are both located in Southern California. We've both been advocates of the shooting sports and getting the best amount of value for your hard-earned dollar. So look forward to giving you some of our opinions today on some various things. We'll probably wander off topic. I know there's a bunch of things I'd like to wander off on topic on, but we'll see where we get from here. Let's go for it, Craig.
Well, first and foremost, for new listeners to the show, and by the way, thank you, new listeners. I've seen some worldwide expansion of the footprint of the show to places as far north as Finland and as far south as the southern tip of Australia, into the African continent and South America and Brazil and Colombia. So very appreciated the way the show is organically growing. Why are we in Southern California? Well, I guess both of us, by dint of fate, ended up here. But we like Southern California, although we hate the politics. And today is, as we're recording this, election day. The polls the polls close pretty soon in the East Coast as we record this. But I hope by the time you listeners hear this, election day will be over in the United States. And I hope you all voted for freedom. You voted for secure borders. You voted for freedom and Second Amendment candidates. Why do we stay here, Ken? I guess we like the weather.
Well, it's an interesting thing. I mean, I am recently retired this year after many, many years. Working more than 40 plus years in information technology management, and always doing firearms as a hobby on the side. It's an interesting question. The weather in California is beautiful. The views are beautiful. The mountains, the deserts, the beaches, all beautiful. The thing is, we're run by crazy people out here on the left coast, and it is the left coast. And I just recently, as Craig, drove across country, did a wild tour across country, over 6,500 miles, driving and visiting various places. I could touch on a couple of those. The price of gasoline here right now in early November 2025 is sitting around a good deal, sitting around $2.25 here. Or excuse me, $4.20.
Oh yeah, I was going to say not here.
$4.25 here in Southern California, $4.25. We were in Arkansas a couple of weeks ago, and it was $2.21 a gallon. And these are areas of the country that have freeze thaw, and they have beautiful roads, beautiful roads.
Oh no, we have holes. We pay for lots of holes in our roads.
We're paying double the price in California, and we have potholes that'll rip an axle off your car. A dent, a rim, not an uncommon thing.
But our gas prices might go down if they get rid of the gas tax and replace it with a mileage tax.
Oh,
anyway,
joy!
Yeah.
Rapture! Yes.
Anyway, well, at least we are within driving distance of Las Vegas, which means that we can go to the SHOT Show every year. And we just signed up. Yeah, we signed up for SHOT Show 26. We're going to be going to Industry Day, which is otherwise known as Range Day, to be able to get you listeners some previews of some stuff that is not even on the market yet. But, where do you find those best deals? I know that I've mentioned this before, but I want to give a quick plug. And by the way, we're not getting paid anything for any of this.
No.
All the stuff we're talking about, we're not getting paid for it.
Nope.
Gun deals. Gun.deals. That's actually the site. So it's
Hmm.
singular, GUN dot DEALS, and a corollary site, WikiArms, which is, wiki like Wikipedia, but WikiArms are a couple places to really locate, just the most amazing deals that are out there. I'm looking at it right now on my computer, and there's everything from hearing protection to medical kits to red dots to weapon mounted lights to gloves, all kinds of stuff. But you can also narrow it down and you can use that tool to be able to find the best deals in the category or the actual SKU you're looking for.
And these are all new items. Is this correct?
Yeah, it's all new items. And one thing, so I was just before we started recording the show, Ken and I were talking, and there was something that popped up. And I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I'm very into knives. I've always been into knives, probably even before I was into firearms.
Hmm.
And I own a bunch of handmade stuff from
Oh,
various makers.
beautiful
But
stuff.
yeah, it's all,
Custom made. Yeah.
yeah, and expensive. And
Hmm.
because it's so expensive, I'm afraid to use it, and it sits in the safe because I'm afraid to diminish the value. So it's like, well, why did I? That's a whole nother topic. Why did I buy these things if I'm not going to use them and let them sit in
Because
a
they
safe?
bring you joy. They bring
Well,
you
but they
joy.
don't. They sit in a safe. So,
Well,
but
yes, but you had that display cabinet for quite a while. That was nice to
that
see.
that's true. And now they just sit in a damn safe. But
Yeah.
so, what knives do I actually use? I use actually pretty cheap knives that I don't mind destroying. And one thing that popped up there, it was an Amazon find, and it was called the REAT, and I'll spell that REAT, like Romeo Echo Alpha Tango. Fixed blade knife. It's a 4-inch knife, or just a fraction under 4 inches to keep it legal,
Hmm.
that is almost a kukri shape, even though the blade is very short. So it has a lot of what's called belly to it. But the handle, the balance of the knife, actually the holster for the knife, the quality of the clip that they use, it's punching way, 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 way
Hmm.
above its weight. I mean, this thing's on sale right now for under $17. And I bought a second one just, I mean, ostensibly, just I'm just going to destroy one of them and see how it does. D2 steel, which is not the best steel out there, but it's certainly respectable. Hold an edge well enough, takes an amazing edge. So highly recommended. But there was another Amazon find I want to point people out to.
And before you do, REIT has a whole bunch of different designs out there. It's not just the one that you're talking about.
That's
They have a
true.
whole host of designs that are, they all look excellent. I have not had the opportunity to play with many of them yet, but I will.
Well, we're going to be quick to point something out here. Again, maybe for the benefit of new listeners. Um, was it made in China? Yep, it was made in China. Do we
True.
often cover things that are made in China? Yes, we do. We're actually going to talk about some stuff today that's American made, but
Hmm.
to think that you're going to be able to combine frugality with solely onshore, in other words, US manufacturing. And if you've listened to our previous episodes, and by the way, I would encourage people to go back and listen to previous episodes, sometimes made in the USA doesn't mean entirely made in the USA. It might mean assembled in the USA from
Right.
parts made elsewhere. So are we patriotic? Yes, Ken and I both are, but
Very much so. Yes.
Ken, is it realistic to get away from offshore manufacturing?
At this point in time, no. I mean, again, we're value proposition people. We want our listeners to be able to acquire, use, and enjoy value. And to
Right.
do that right now, a decent amount of that is offshore. If when we do find and have an entirely 100% made America one, we will absolutely highlight that.
Yeah.
Would be our preference if it was available, but oftentimes it is just not
It just
available.
isn't. Right. So again, previous shows do discuss this, and actually some of the manufacturers that we've talked to before have talked about, efforts to not just avoid tariffs and bringing manufacturing, back to the U.S., but also for reasons of quality and things like that. But the other find that I had that I have not talked about before, that I found actually a couple of years ago, it's still available, is a brand called Sarblu, which is another one of these invented Chinese words that, has no, I mean, it's just bad English, right? Sarblue. They have a Maksutov Cassegrain telescope. Now, okay, what is that? There's various types of ways to design telescopes. One of the ways to do it is by making something called a catadioptic telescope. Maybe you've heard me talk about this before, but I've built my own telescope and I ground my own mirror. I know this kind of stuff. The catadioptic, meaning folded light path telescopes, tend to be very, very efficient in size, lightweight, and they can gather a lot of light in a small package. So this little guy, I didn't buy it to look at planets and things like that. I bought it as a spotting scope to use at the range. It's very, very high magnification. They make a couple models. This one's the MAK 60. They also make a MAK 70 because catadioptic telescopes use spherical ground lenses and not parabolic, which is much harder to do. You can make these things with great precision at low cost. And this thing, I've shown it to other people who are into astronomy, and everyone is just blown away by like, wait a minute, this cost how much? And we're talking about a list price of $100. And like the fancy one is like
Hmm.
150. And you're talking about something that has, again, batting above its, or punching above its weight by a factor of five. I'm not kidding. I've seen $500 scopes that can't do what this $100 scope does. So, yeah, are you supporting an offshore venture by doing this? Yeah, you would be if you bought it. But if you want just an amazing a piece of optical capability, look into this. I'm going to put a link in the show notes to this one. So if people want to go grab it, absolutely. That's the way to go if you need a spotting scope that's going to really give you a great image quality edge to edge.
Yeah, and that's important. These very good spotting skills, particularly since kind of long range shooting is becoming more and more of a thing. And long range shooting is fun because number one, you're oftentimes not shooting a lot, which means that your cost of ammunition is going to be less because you're not going to be shooting, 100 rounds out there. You're probably going to do 10 or 20 rounds as you tune a particular load to your rifle or whatever. So, good optics, you'll be able to see a 22 or 30 caliber hole at a range of 400, 5, 6, 700 yards, becomes a very important thing to be able to do. And optics like this are something that's going to be able to assist with that. And of course, if you're into black powder, which I'm getting more and more into the black powder stuff, like a Quigley rifle and
Mhm.
the Quigley rifle shoot, where you're shooting, 800 yards or so. Basically lobbing in these big 45 caliber slugs at 800 yards and punching little holes in paper. Great fun. Not, I mean, after the initial rifle purchase and so forth, the cost of the each shot is quite low, and you're not making that many of them. But the optics, the ability to both see the hole and possibly even have the camera attachment so you can record it,
Yeah, this
even
does
better.
that. Comes
So.
with it. In fact, you know what? While you were talking, I just kind of noticed something else in the Amazon feed here. The same scope that I just said costs $100. Ah, if you buy it with a tripod, which means you're getting more stuff, it actually costs less. It's on sale at 50% off at $65. So that's the link I'll put in. And it does have a little, like an iPhone holder. I used this thing to record the full eclipse in Dallas a couple years back in March of 2023. And it just did an amazing job. So, like you said, this is a good enough optic. You brought up long range shooting, Ken. I'm glad you did that because this thing's good enough to be able to get like wind reads and things like that that lesser optics can't do. Like you'd be able to see, thermal effects and stuff like that across, the area that you're shooting. That lesser scopes cannot do, or you'll be spending an awful lot of money to do it. So we covered, let's see, we covered a knife, we covered a telescope. Maybe we should cover a gun. Recently, got myself the Mossberg 940 SPC. So what is that? That is an update to the 940 line. Last year was the 940. I don't know if it was last year or the year
930, I think it
before.
was a 930, but
Well, there
yeah,
was
but
a
the
930, but there's also the 940 tactical.
yes.
But this is a little bit more tactical than the tactical that they had before. I said SPC. That was my bad. It's SPX. SPX. And if you look at Colin Noir's review of this, he had an absolutely gushing review on YouTube. He decoded SPX as meaning super effing tactical, which actually phonetically makes no sense,
Fine,
but
super fine
yeah,
tactical. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Super tactical.
And this is a 12 gauge semi-automatic
Yeah, it is.
shotgun
Yeah, it is.
with I think eight and one, right? So it's eight in the tube,
I've been
one,
getting, well, it depends. And it's actually, I've been getting seven in,
seven and one in the
the
tube. Okay,
tube, but the tube is actually a little longer than the barrel. And the reason for that is that Mossberg found out that, the shells aren't very well standardized for length
right.
in 12 gauge. So what they
No.
wanted to do was make sure that people at least using 2 3/4 shells would be able to get in the advertised number of shells into the thing and not complain. So it sticks out just maybe a 1/4 inch beyond the barrel. It actually looks kind of cool, but they've listened to their consumers on this, and there's
Hmm.
plenty of information out there that this is now, you could say Beretta 1301. This
Fine
thing's
gun
given,
too. Yeah.
and more expensive gun, and
Oh yeah.
this is given the Beretta 1301 a serious run for its money. I actually like the way it operates better than the 1301. It does not require an extra depression of a button inside the lift to be able to get the magazine to work. So it's a little bit more intuitive and direct, and perhaps under stress, maybe a little bit better design.
Hmm.
I don't know what you think about this. There's mixed opinions. The Beretta 1301 has like a finger guard mounted safety. The 940 has its safety mounted up on the tang for either ambidextrous thumb
Yeah.
use. I
Left or
prefer
right-handed shooters. Yeah.
yeah, I prefer that because I don't like the idea of having to go anywhere near the trigger guard if I'm not ready to shoot, including taking the safety off. I mean, you got
Right.
a thought on that?
Yeah, there have been various philosophies over time as to whether how close your finger should be to the trigger when you're operating the safety. For example, the M1 Garand or Grand, that was just a standard battle rifle, World War II, had the safety literally inside the trigger guard, and people either loved it or thought it was the stupidest idea in the world. Again, training with any firearm is going to keep you safe, so that you understand what it is. And I know, Craig, you talked about like the crossbolt safety was found on the Ruger 1022s and thousands of other designs that are out there versus the one that's up on the top of the receiver, just above your thumb. Works great for left and right-handed shooters. Originally, I used to be a Remington 870 pump guy, and that's where I started and really loved them. Owned several of them. Um, and didn't really appreciate the aluminum receivers of the Mossbergs, but I've really come to appreciate the Mossberg, the value proposition again. And you compare it against the Beretta 1301, which is I think about a 50% additional premium over what the 940.
I think it's less than that now, but I mean, it's still you're spending more, and I don't see that you're getting more. I will tell you this, we put it through a series of tests where we put, both high and low brass through it randomly,
Hmm.
and the gas system on this thing adjusts automatically and
Yep.
actually did a fantastic job of just digesting everything. Now, when Ken ran that test on me, and then I ran that test on him. When I was shooting, I have a very, very tight grip, or I pull the weapon very strongly into my shoulder. And as a result,
Hmm.
the difference between birdshot and buckshot, I really didn't notice hardly at all. You said you noticed it. I don't know. Maybe our holds are a little bit different. You were able to pick out which
Yeah,
one
holds are a
was,
little bit different.
yeah, you could pick the high brass out easier than I could.
Right. And I know we're mentioning high brass and versus low brass. These are aspects of the 12 gauge shotgun shells. Low brass are oftentimes, target loads. They're oftentimes slightly lower pressure. High brass ones have more brass literally wrapping around the powder area of the shell itself. And they typically are a little higher pressure and there's a little bit more spank to them. And Craig, you mentioned the fact that there's a whole host of 12 gauge lengths that are available in shotguns.
Yeah.
Obviously, the 2 3/4 is the standard here in the United States, 2 3/4, or the 3 inch Magnum. 3 inch long Magnum, but they all vary from manufacturer to manufacturer. It can vary by more than a tenth of an inch. In Europe, it's 2 9/16. What? And actually, occasionally you run across a shotgun from Europe here at a gun show or something, an older one, and it's actually chambered in 2 9/16. And now they also have the 3.5 inch Magnum shells that certain shotguns, particularly pump, will do. They're usually goose gun type shotguns for long range shotgun shooting and bird hunting. And then, of course, there are the mini shells, which have recently appeared on the market in the last 10 years or so, which are these short little stubby ones, which most semi-automatic shotguns or even pump shotguns will not handle, but they work great in side by sides or single shots.
We didn't try that in the
No, we
Mossberg. Well,
didn't.
we
We
didn't
didn't
have
try.
any to try it with. I don't think it
Yeah,
would work.
probably wouldn't, but probably would not. But all I'm saying is there are a whole host of different types of shotgun shells that are available, semi-automatic, pump, whatever it might be. You need to practice with whatever you're going to be putting in there, particularly if you're going to be using it for a home defense scenario, whatever.
Something that I did when I got the 940 was I also went out and bought a bunch of, and by a bunch I mean like a dozen snap caps. Now,
Hmm.
snap caps used to just be for the protection of the firing pin, but in a shotgun, if you want to become proficient at loading it, like doing tactical reloads, pop one in, pop two in, things like that, and you don't want to do it with live rounds because I don't know, you want to do it in your house, and maybe that's not a very good idea.
Right.
They now make ones, and this is another, by the way, Amazon purchase, for very inexpensive. I got a bunch of these guys that weigh as much as a buckshot round, so the weight is correct. It feels correct in your hand. Snapcaps never used to be that way.
No.
But now I can play with the gun safely and be able to play around with different reloading methods, coming over the top, coming underneath, using the placard on the side that, or sometimes called a caddy, where it may hold perhaps 6 shells in an elastic fabric backed holder that then is velcroed to the side of the gun. By the way, that is a feature that comes on the 940 built in. It comes with a placard
Mm,
that is, in fact, the serial number of the gun sits on the left side of the receiver, and they cut it out so you can see, the serial number on the
you
gun.
can read it.
A few other things that they offer on that gun is the ability to drop in RMSC red dot right into the receiver by removing an adapter plate.
Drilled and tapped already on top of the receiver to accept the
Yeah.
standard. Yeah, there are a couple of different standards, three different standards.
Well, it comes with them. It comes with them all. It comes with the RMR and the Doctor and the loophole footprint adapter plates.
Yep.
You can change the length of pole. You can change the cant. There's offsets for both left and right-handed shooters.
Hmm.
And we're going to get somebody on from Mossberg to join us as a guest at some point.
Right.
I mean, they better because we're giving them a hell of a commercial here.
Yeah, shotguns are wonderful things. I mean, and the other thing about shotgun is you don't aim a shotgun. You point it. And you're like, what? What's the difference? There is a big difference. It's just more than we can go into right here, right
Yeah,
now.
right.
But there's a lot of fun reading. Shotguns is like an entire world of firearms trivia and firearms nuances that you have to learn. So,
Well, if we're going to talk about a world of stuff well, to learn about, what's been the big news lately? A lot of talk about the Sig P320. And if
oh
people
yes,
people haven't heard about this, there was a allegation, and I'll phrase it that way, that a P320 caused the death of an airman.
an uncommanded discharge.
An uncommanded discharge was the allegation. Now, again, I don't own any SIGs. I have no relationship with SIGs, and I'm not recommending, for or against SIGs, and neither is my co-host Ken. But there are many documented cases of alleged P320 accidents based on, as Ken said, the uncommanded discharge, which is not the same thing as a negligent discharge. It's a discharge where the gun goes off by means other than a deliberate positive action by pulling the trigger. Well, Ken, did you hear the latest news on this?
But no, I was traveling, so I've not heard the latest on
Okay,
it.
so here's the latest, and this was passed on to me via the magic of YouTube by Mr. William Kirk of Washington Gun Law. By,
Yes.
by the way, a person who we intend to have as a guest on the show in the future.
And highly recommend his podcast on YouTube, for example.
Absolutely, yeah.
Fantastic.
And don't think by, and when we're talking Washington, we mean Washington State, but also don't think of Mr. Kirk's information or podcast as being solely limited to people in the
No,
state of Washington.
he does the whole country.
He does the whole
Straight.
country. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, but his show is based in the state of Washington.
Yeah.
Turns out that whole narrative about taking the gun off in its holster, slamming it down on the table, and the gun going off and shooting the airman in the chest was fabricated. What
Hmm.
really happened was another airman removed the gun from the holster and was joking around in a, a haha manner and shot his fellow airman. Then, when two other airmen came to investigate, why did I just hear a shot go off? The way the story goes, as I understand it, is that the person who did the shooting then told them, well, this is the story we're going to run with. That the gun was
Uh-huh.
removed, put on the table, and the weapon went off in an uncommanded manner through the holster and killed the poor guy on the ground. That those two other people who initially agreed to stick with that story, I guess, have now pled guilty to falsifying an official record,
Hmm.
which in the military is not a very good idea.
Career ending.
Yeah, well, the thing that surprised me was that Mr. Kirk said that the punishments that were doled out for this were
Hmm.
respectively 10 and 30 days, not months, not years, 10 and
Hmm.
30 days in the brig. Now, I would assume that that's also followed by a dishonorable discharge, but that seems like an awfully short period of time for a problem of this gravity. Now, what happened to the guy who did the shooting? I guess he's going to avoid prosecution because he has himself died of his own action.
Oh,
So
did not know that.
he took himself out, probably a function of the amount of guilt or whatever. But he's now gone. So two people have
Hmm.
lost their life and two people have had their career ruined. Why? Because one person, for some reason, who's a security guard, didn't understand the four basic rules of
Gun
firearms
safety.
safety, right?
Yes.
And two others lied about it.
Ah,
Yeah. So now
was
yeah. So does that mean that I completely now trust Sig? Personally,
mm,
not necessarily.
not necessarily.
Yeah, there's too much other stuff.
There's a whole body of others that are out there who have pointed out other problems, and they may be related to specific firearms or combinations of parts. If you're switching out a factory part for a replacement part for an aftermarket part, and yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I have always held SIGs in high regard, and I am questioning it at this point in time, but I have come to no personal conclusions at this point in time. They are one of the great firearms manufacturing companies, and I hope they come out at the end of this,
Um,
as a highly respected again. So
I'm
that's
going to
all I
point
can
out
say.
something else, though. I may provide the link to this in the show notes. And again, uh, everything that we're saying here is essentially third hand or more, I guess, information. Some of it may be considered circumstantial. There is a gentleman who did a 2 hour and as as a YouTube video, 2 hours is way out there in the margin as far as length goes. And the title says he's talking about the P320. except he spends the first hour not talking about the P320. The first hour of this podcast, he talks about the corporate culture at
Mm.
Sig and lays forth a case of, you know, really bringing into question whether that's a company you want to do business with in the first place. And again, these are all allegations, and I'm not saying that this person knows factually the entire stories, because in some of these cases that are talked about, dealing with sexual harassment, dealing with hostile workplace environments, and things like that, I believe that some of these cases went to, before they got to trial, were settled out of court, and therefore you don't necessarily know the whole story. But I think that there's some questions there that I would like, at least before I became a customer, would want answered, to know that I'm dealing with someone who is ethical and has, the right kind of corporate culture, not just the white outward face to the gun community, which which by the way, if people haven't been following this, the amount of what was referred to as gaslighting they've done, whether now justified or not, has not put them in the eyes of many gun owners in a positive light. Let's say we turn this around a little bit and talk about the new Glock V series. And what is V? I think V is just the Roman numeral five, right? It's a, reimagination, if you will, of the
I think
Glock.
so.
Yeah, of the Glock. Now, do you think there's two ways to look at this? Is this a reaction to coming legislation, and by the way, now current legislation in the state of California and probably elsewhere concerning the Glock switch, which is, by the way, is already illegal? Or is it the fact that all of Glock's patents expired long ago, and Glock knew they needed a refresh, a technical
Hmm.
refresh? And now, we talked about before, after the SHOT Show from last year, like the Ruger RXM, which is, in outwardly looks like a Glock, inwardly is a different animal. Are they just trying to now advance the technology? Because when you look at when the V Series was announced, it was very soon after California announced that they were going to suspend sales of Glocks in the state. And by the way, we could already only get the Gen 3 anyway. But now all
Anyway, yeah.
Glocks, yeah, all Glocks were going to be not for sale. Doesn't mean that they would come take any that you had, but you couldn't import anymore, and you couldn't sell them because they're quote unquote easily converted to machine guns. And was Glock simply reacting to that, in your opinion, or was this because you know they couldn't have come out with the V series and said, "Oh no, in another month we're going to be outlawed, so we're going to redesign our guns and announce an entire new set of SKUs next month"? That doesn't happen. That's not how it works.
No, yeah, I know, because Glock basically stopped production of almost all of their firearms, and they had an extensive selection of calibers and sizes and all sorts of things. Been making them for years. And Gen 3s, even though they've been succeeded by Gen 4s and Gen 5s for many years, certain large markets like the state of California would only allow Gen 3s to be sold here. Okay, and now that they're not going to be making any Gen 3s, can't get them in the state just passed this stupid law to outlaw those. The next question is these new Glock V's, V for I don't know, five, victory, whatever they're gonna be. Um, I don't even know if they're going to be approved by the state of California for sale here, because you got to go through that. You got to be on the list in the state of California because it's still pending before the United States Supreme Court. Some lawsuits about firearms that they can't sell certain guns, a lot of guns here in the state of California, just because the state doesn't allow them to be sold. The state has to approve what you can own, which is completely against the Constitution and so forth. But things move very slowly through the courts, and this one's been out there for more than 8 years, I think, and hopefully the Supreme Court will pick up some of these things and pitch out the old the rules. It's kind of like saying, okay, you make cars. Okay, you can't make a car that was made after 1999 or whatever. So you can't update it with new brakes, or you can't get a new engine design, or you can't do new whatever sort of new technology or computers. That's the way the state of California has done it. They've frozen it at a certain point in time. And Yes, it's true they have recently started adding a few additional ones, but it's nothing like it is. Don't pick up your latest gun magazine, look at the cover, and go, "I want one of those," because chances are you can't get it here. But God bless you if you happen to live in a free state or some other part of the country, you can. So enjoy.
Yeah, other states, even if they have better selection of guns, have their own challenges in terms of magazine capacity or in terms of all kinds of different problems. I mean, we're not on an island by ourselves with bad gun legislation. I mean, I don't
No,
think we're not implying that, but the fact that actually the way the law is written, a gun, that's quote unquote easily convertible to be fully automatic is a de facto machine gun. That actually is written in law. Now, whether that's good law or not good law, I would say it's not good law because it takes, I mean, a car could be used. I mean, I hate to go back to this analogy all the time, but a car could be used as a weapon or it can be used as a mode of transportation. A pencil, how many people did John Wick kill with a pencil? Uh,
yeah,
a pencil is a writing instrument, or it could be a weapon in the hands of John Wick. In this case, I can understand why they would want a preclusion on the import of the Glock switch because it only has that one purpose.
sure.
But to criminalize the gun as a platform to me doesn't make sense. For all you frugal people out there, I got a modification you can do that you're going to like. If anybody owns the Ruger LCP Max, which is a fantastic little, I mean, very little
A
380.
380, yeah.
Yeah, thing's a bit snappy, and the 380 is not that strong a cartridge, but the LCP Mac weighs nothing, and as a result, definitely you notice the recoil.
Hmm.
And if you put, there's a company out there called M Carbo, like the letter
M hyphen,
M,
yeah.
M hyphen carbo, as in carbohydrates. I couldn't come up with anything better. Um, that makes accessories for lots of different guns. And one thing that they have is a 13-pound spring, recoil spring,
Hmm.
that you can install to replace the 11-pound spring. You're thinking, well, that's only 2 pounds different. Yeah, except that 2 pounds is also on the order of 20% change in recoil spring rate, RATE, the spring rate has gone up by quite a bit. And put one of these things in an LCP Max with the 11-pound spring and then change it to the 13-pound spring. It took me exactly one shot to realize, oh my God, this is a great improvement. And that's an inexpensive. I mean, that's a very, very inexpensive and took one shot to realize that was the way to go. On the other end of the scale, the financial scale. I forgot. Uh, Long ago, we talked about something that we then have walked away from and not been doing, which is our ratings
Our
for
rating
valve.
scale. Well, that's a good
Yeah,
point.
rating. Yeah. That M Carbo 13-pound spring for the LCP Max, solid 10. Easy. And the Mossberg 940, mm, it's an expensive gun. I mean, it's still $1,000 the way I bought it. I would give it an 8.
Yeah, I would give it at least an 8.
I'd give it an 8. That REIT knife, oh, that's a
10,
20,
solid
that's a
10.
25 on a
If we,
10
if we,
scale.
yeah, exactly.
And the SAR Blue scope, absolutely. If you don't go buy, honestly, if you don't go buy one of these things and they're $64 and you need a scope either for looking at game or looking at your target or looking at the moon or something like that, you're a fool. I mean, straight up. That's another that's another solid 10. But when we get to the DPM recoil system for Glock pistols, which is a compound nested spring. In other words, the spring's captured on the recoil rod, and it has multiple stages to it. It's therefore a progressive spring rate. That I think would not. It's an expensive item. I mean, those things run north of $100,
Right.
and have one in my Glock 19. I like it a lot, but what do I think about it as a value proposition? Probably not as high because it's kind of hard to just, I mean, when you think about you're buying a spring,
That's
or
25 or 20% the value of the firearm for a spring
yeah.
and a rod. Yeah, it seems like a lot.
I mean, wouldn't you think that? I mean, I think maybe for the more serious, like competition shooters, yes.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Very,
serious. Yeah, but the average guy, no, I probably would not. I wouldn't put it on something that would be. I would go out there and do it. Does it improve it? Yeah, absolutely.
It
It,
absolutely improves it.
but you got the money to do it. You got north of $100 to drop on that to try it out, and hopefully you like it. Maybe some people wouldn't like it. I don't know.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I think that, I my value rating for this one, I'm not trying to be evasive, but the truth of the matter is the answer, as in many things, is it depends.
hmm
If you're a new shooter or a relatively inexperienced or infrequent shooter, I would not be able to say that you could ever get the value out of this, that it just wouldn't make sense.
Right.
However, if you're an accomplished shooter, a competition shooter, and you can feel nuance, it probably actually is a great addition because it can do something that other things can't do. By changing the progression of recoil,
hmm
it prevents the frame slap when the slide is fully back. It'll lessen that frame slap that you get, which to some people, I mean, it'll make the gun last longer because it's getting less
Sure.
abuse. That might be worth it for you, depending on what else you've done with the gun.
hmm and if you can get back on your sight picture back on target quicker, okay, then you pick up a tenth of a second. Well, that could be a big difference in a life or death situation.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
And yeah, and then you're not going to be arguing over the I spent, 85 or $100 on a spring. I mean, it's going to be the best
no.
investment you ever made, right?
Yeah,
Along with
it's
training,
along with training and all. If you anybody carries, you buy premium ammunition for carrying.
please
You
do.
train, yeah, you train with the training ammo. That's great. And you should always shoot some of your ammunition that you're going to be doing that you're going to be carrying all the time. You always should have some practice with it. But I understand that most carry ammunition that is bet your life ammunition is north of $1 a round. And for a lot of people, that's a lot of money. But
Yeah, and gosh, you brought up something interesting, Ken. Talking about training ammunition. Oh, boy.
mhm.
You're familiar with the new battle rifle that the US military has adopted?
The 6.8, six
Yeah,
point eight, yeah.
the 6.8 by 51 that
Yep.
has an 85,000 psi case pressure,
Which is
um,
amazingly high.
which is, but you know that they're not training with that round, right?
I
They're
hadn't
training
looked
with,
into it.
did you know that? Yeah, they're training, I guess, with the brass round. And
Hmm.
the brass round is at a lower pressure in order to do two things. One, to save money because this, I mean, because those hybrid cases, and but what I mean by hybrid is part brass and part steel with an aluminum, not a washer, but I think a locking ring between the various parts, which, by the way, just as a mechanical engineer, would make me think, huh, bimetal corrosion. Okay, not going to go there.
Don't
That
know.
that's a separate topic. But the ostensibly the training round is essentially the 277 Fury, which is a brass cased lower pressure round. So what's the wisdom there? Well, does it keep the gun from getting beat up? Yeah. Does it save the taxpayers money? Well, a lot, yeah. But do you want our military training with a much lower pressure round? Hmm.
Hmm.
Question. And
Depends.
now I understand, and I don't have this on good authority. Did I mention, by the way, that the spear, which is the nickname for the gun, is a Sig product? Just throwing that out
Yeah,
there.
there you go.
That it now, again, I do not advertising that I have this on good authority, that now they've lowered the design case pressure to 75,000 psi.
Hmm.
Yeah, because apparently they're having problems with the 85,000 psi rounds.
That's a lot of pressure, 85,000 psi.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to dispute that the round achieves objectives that they couldn't achieve otherwise, which would be penetration of, now standard issue body armor
Sure.
to threats that are wearing body armor at extended ranges.
Right.
Okay, I get it. I understand why they did it. But I wonder if they could have got there by another redesign of the 5.56, because that's gone through so many evolutions. Now you have 77 grain bullets with, great ballistic properties.
Or the 7.62 by 51, the standard old, the 308,
Can we
round.
never go back to the thing we used to do? Come on now.
What about the 30-06? I
I was going
love
to
that
say
cartridge. I love that
you're
cartridge.
going to advocate for the 45 too, aren't you?
Well, it's a great round. The 45 is a great, particularly with some of the new.
I'm not saying anything bad about 45s, but you're not going
I
back
know,
there.
I know.
Maybe you'll get to now maybe. So if you had to pick, let's say a new round, would you go and remember frugal firearms? Okay, so ammunition cost matters. Would you stick with the 9 millimeter? Would you go 30?
Yes.
Would you? Well, let me finish. Would you go super 30 super carry, 30
No.
super carry, or would you go 5.7 by 28?
I go 9 millimeter. No, every day, every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Why? Because there's a lot, because it's ubiquitous, okay? And the first word in our podcast is frugal. So the 9 millimeter has been made for 9 millimeter parabellum, 9 millimeter for war, literally. Parabellum has been available now for over 100 years. I don't know when they did it. I have to look it up.
I think it means prepare for war, but whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Whatever.
Anyway, it's been available for over 100 years. There are hundreds of designs. It is by far the most popular handgun caliber and probably many carbine calibers in the entire world. Yeah, are these other ones interesting? The 30 Super Carry? Yeah, very interesting.
No, why?
But they're
Why? Tell people why if they don't know what it is. Why would you want super carry?
Super Carry gives you more rounds in
Yeah.
the same size frame, and they're higher velocity and thus
Yeah.
flatter shooting, and probably a little less recoil and quicker on
Hmm.
sight picture. There are
Hmm.
advantages to them, but again, they're new. They're the new guy on the block. Would I get one? No. Somebody gave me one. Would I enjoy it? Probably. But am I going to go out and buy 2,000 rounds of 30 Super Carry? No, not going to do it.
And the same
And
thing with the 5.7.
57 by 28 is a great round. I think United States Secret Service uses it. If you're attempting to storm the White House or something like that, you're probably going to be shot by a 57.
I'm not trying that.
No, I wouldn't try it either. But
Nor do I advocate that any of our listeners
exactly.
do that either. There's been
No, no,
enough
no.
violence.
I'm just saying
Just cut it
that
out.
is a
Yeah.
government that is a government round. I
Right.
tend to stick with the government rounds that have been tried and true, and the 9 millimeter has been vetted for well over 100 years. It's great. They make it. You're going to find it everywhere, and thus it's going to be frugal. Will it do everything you want it to do? Pretty much. If you want to do something more unique, there are some very nice new designs with the Liberty. I think it's Liberty Ammunition makes some like 50 grain 9 millimeter. That's going to give you over 2,000 feet per second. And some of our listeners don't know, but typically the 9 millimeter is chambered with a 115 grain bullet
Mhm.
projectile, and a 50 grain being less than half of that is comes screaming out the barrel at an additional 800 or 900 feet per second out of there. So it's going to be very flat shooting, going to get to the target very quickly. It's going to smack hard, but not necessarily penetrate as deeply. Again, what do you need it for? What are you using it for? What I like about the 9 millimeter is it's everywhere, and everyone's got it. You'll find it anywhere. Any gun shop is going to have tons of 9 millimeter for sale. And if you need something special, somebody's probably designed a round, a bullet design, a projectile design that would be right for purpose.
How do you
Not
know about penetration, though? What would you use to measure that?
ooh, that's a very interesting thing. Penetration. You want something that's standardized, and one of the wonderful things that the government has done, the FBI in particular, they have standardized what is considered to be good for self-defense, for example, ammunition. And they do that by using a ballistic gel, which is basically like Jello, with a particular formulation of it.
It's stiff frickin' Jello, man. I wouldn't want to be eating that stuff.
No, it is stiff, but it's basically Jello. It is designed to mimic flesh, whether that be human or animal or whatever, but basically that. And they have you can get ballistic gel. You can buy it. I know, Craig, you've got some really cool clear gel stuff.
I bought mine from Clear Ballistics, yes, and it's a little costly, but it's so much fun, honestly.
And it's reusable. You
And it's
you can
reusable, yeah. And you melt it
yeah,
down, but the thing is, it loses a little bit of clarity every time you
true.
cook it. But what's the alternative? The alternative is that you can make homemade ballistics gel out
Yep.
of like Knox gelatin. But what do you run into
Yeah.
then? I mean, well, is it cheaper? Yeah, it's cheaper. No
Yes.
question. Is it as clear? Not anywhere
Not
close.
anywhere near close.
And you know
No.
what? You can make it more clear, and I forgot what you add to it. I want to say it's there's an additive you can, I think it might be hydrogen peroxide. I'm not sure. There's something you can add to the homemade stuff that makes it much more clear and less yellow. But the other problem is that it's very temperature sensitive.
Right.
You have to keep it cold. You have to take it to the range in the cooler if you live in a hot place
Right.
because it starts to literally melt and then it kind of blows apart and I don't know. I thought for
It starts to
me,
melt. Right.
I would buy the clear ballistics and get the 10% stuff that the FBI uses. 10% what? Comes in 10 and 20% concentrations.
And you can also do what Paul Harrell did on his YouTube videos. Paul Harrell he passed away recently of pancreatic cancer, but he has, I think, hundreds of videos out there, and he always did a meat target where he had denim, that he'd have covered up. Then he usually bought pork ribs, I think it was,
I
to
like pork
simulate
ribs though. I don't want to shoot them.
you shoot him. Behind it, he had whatever a bag of oranges for to simulate
Oh, the
a
lungs.
lung
Yeah,
tissue, and
right.
on the
Hmm.
back he had
Or a
more pork
watermelon or
ribs.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, more pork ribs on the back, and I think it wrapped it with denim. So he basically was assembling a torso, and he would shoot these things with all sorts of different calibers, and then he'd go through and take the meat target apart and say, well, it hit the bone and went this way, and he'd look at the destructive capabilities of it.
But that's such a mess.
It is a complete mess. But again, I would recommend to those of you who've not listened to Paul Harrell, Harrell, I believe, Paul Harrell, maybe one L, I'm not sure. But Paul passed away recently, but he has his YouTube channel is still out there. It's being run by his brother right now. He was a fantastic YouTuber, firearms guy, definitely opinionated, had a lot of opinions, a lot of training over the years. I would recommend tuning into some of his YouTube videos that he's produced, and even some of the new ones that his brother's been producing. So
I want to say that the Garen Thumb guys, and by the way, I do believe that is the correct. Most people say Garand. I've heard
yeah,
that that is the incorrect way to say it. It's actually Garand. So I'm going to
yeah,
stick with that until, well, I'm never going to meet the guy until I get to heaven. But whatever.
right.
The that Garen Thumb, I think uses I believe it's them on their YouTube channel has used the same technique of ribs and fruit and denim and all strung together. But holy crap, is that a lot of
Exactly. You tape it all together.
it was clear ballistics gel. What does it do for you guys? I mean, why would you spend the money to buy a block? Just buy one because you can use it over and over. Is it gives you the objective, consistent, round to round comparison
Hmm.
between I could compare the super carry to the 5.7 by 28. I can compare it to 9 millimeter. I can compare it to 45. Recently, I posted a video that, by the way, I shouldn't have done it this way because I was too close. It blew powder into the gel, which then becomes part of the yellowing of the gel. But I posted a slow motion video of when we were at the range last time shooting a
Hmm.
223 and how incredibly destructive that is compared to like an FMJ 9 millimeter that just scoots right through and like, is there a hole here or not? So yes, you can make it yourself,
Right.
but honestly, guys, my value proposition for if you want a gel that if you're going to do this as a hobby or even as a profession, I would still say spend the money, even if it's not frugal, get the clear ballistics gel, get it on sale. They run sales and get the mold and buy the mold so that you have the correct mold to melt it back in, and then you've got the same size block when you're done. You'll spend $100 on this, but it's going to last you and you're going to get consistent results. If you can't do that, there is a site, and just as we kind of close out here, because I think we're pretty much at the end of the podcast, Lucky Gunner Labs. Lucky Gunner Cells is a source for ammunition. Lucky Gunner Labs is their subsidiary or I guess little brother site where they do testing of ammunition. Now, admittedly, it hasn't been updated in a long time, but they have some amazing tests there that show caliber to caliber and within a caliber, many, many, many different options of what the ballistics gel results would be. Now, why do I say this is important? Because at least the ammunition that I carry, I have vetted against their tests. And specifically, I'm talking about their handgun self-defense ammunition ballistic test, which I'm looking at right now. That allows me to know that I have a round that is going to be consistent round to round in terms of penetration, because under penetration might not stop the threat, but over penetration could be worse because it might hit something beyond the threat that you don't want to hit. And remember, just because you quote unquote know what is, around your target and beyond it doesn't mean that's where the bullet's going. I mean, the bullet can come out sideways when it hits bone, or just turning in a viscous medium. It can go a direction you didn't expect and exit that thing you shot. And this allows me to know that I've got a high performance round with good expansion and allows me to know that that round performed consistently and didn't have big differences round to round in penetration, because as a legal consideration, I think it matters. You may have some thoughts on that, Ken, whether maybe I'm just paranoid or something.
No, I don't think you're paranoid at all. I think you brought up some very good points.
We have some products that we've received that we are reviewing. And by the way, listeners, in cases it's normal for podcasts to get samples to review, because otherwise you can't intelligently talk about something and you can't ethically talk about it if you've never seen it or used it. And in every one of our cases, and there are cases of this, if the manufacturer, sends us a sample they want back, they get it back. We're
Hmm.
not doing this to get, swag. That's not the point. But
No.
we now have an early release of the Mantis Titan X. And that is, I think, yeah, go ahead.
I think it's a game changer for
Training.
basically training purposes at home, that type of thing. We haven't had too much time playing with it yet, but basically, it is a Glock 19.
Like you said, it's a game changer because it allows you to get objective feedback, and go back to listen to our Mantis episode, please, folks. And you'll see that you can get feedback from this you can't get anyplace else.
It's true, and basically, it's a laser, and with a highly sensitive directional accelerometer that's built into this simulated pistol. Okay. And basically, it will tell you during the half a second before you're pulling the trigger,
Mhm.
whether you're pulling it down to the left, jerking it to the right. It's going to capture all of that, and it can display that either on a smartphone or a tablet. So this is a way of basically practicing, and you can also practice magazine changes because it's got full-size Glock magazine changes that you can
Yeah.
do on it. And it's a phenomenal tool. Every time you squeeze the trigger, you don't have to cycle the.
Well, don't give too much away
I won't give too much away,
because we're
but
going to be doing that show.
I'm saying it's a phenomenal tool. I think the list price is going to be around $200 or so at that range. And frankly, I think it should be purchased by pretty much anybody who has a 9 millimeter that can be using for home defense. They want to practice and necessarily either can't afford to or can't get to the range as often as they would
Or
like.
just wants more reps and sets, because I mean you can do
Absolutely.
this, you can do it in your house safely.
Hmm.
And I mean, how long does it take to burn through $200 in ammo? This is going to
Right.
last a lot longer and give you more reps and sets. And the other shows that we have coming up with Vantage Point, pardon me, Vantage Point, that makes a rail mounted compensator. And
Hmm.
another one is Otis, which, by the
Oh
way,
yeah.
yeah, if you don't know, Otis is the same parent company that owns Shooter's Choice. So, in terms of, really some of the premier gun cleaning and maintenance equipment out there, and we're going to have them featured up pretty soon too.
Hmm.
All right, so I think that about wraps it up. Just a you and me show. We haven't done a product review show in a very long time. And I mean, just a you and me show, that is. We've had, of course, guests that we're going to be getting more on. We have other things on our list we didn't get to today. Active hearing protection is something we're going to be talking about. The Rock Island Armory 1911 series, we're going to be talking about that as well.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be talking about an adjustable trigger for a Glock, at least the Glocks that are, the legacy ones, not the
Mm-hmm.
V series, and actually a number of other products that you're going to want to tune into. But so, what do we want our listeners to do for us to keep all this rolling?
Well, we'd like you to subscribe so that when we publish a new podcast, that you'll be the first to know. Dial in, listen to it, and the nice thing about it, you can do it while you're at driving in the car, whether you're walking around walking the dog, or whether you're at the gymnasium, whatever it might be. But if you enjoy the shooting sports as much as we do, but you don't have the the multi-million dollars that we'd all like to have, we try to highlight those things that are gonna help you or let you know about value in the
But
shooting environment.
But you know what? We're not clairvoyants. And, while we do go to the SHOT Show and things like that to find, the best values out there, we don't necessarily know everything. So if you have a product, you know of a product, you promote a product that you would like to have featured on the show, reach out to us at frugalfirearmspodcast@gmail.com. Again, very simple, frugalfirearmspodcast@gmail.com. The website is frugalfirearmspodcast.com, and that has links to our social media as well as, of course, our email address and most importantly, every single episode and whatever podcast aggregator you use to listen to us. So please leave us a like, a comment, and as Ken mentioned, a subscription because that also helps the algorithm get this out to more people in South Sudan, Africa, and Helsinki, Finland, and the backwoods of the rainforests in Brazil, and every place else we're apparently being listened to. So, and one more thing, listeners. Hey, these shows are not free to make. And we actually, like I said, make no money off of this. In fact, it costs us money. So we now have a link on each of our episodes that says, buy us a coffee or a beer. And what's that? It's almost like Patreon, but it's just a little, hey, if you want to drop us a tip of $1 or two or something, just show your appreciation. Those are now available. Spend freely and spend often to keep your favorite podcast on the air. Just thought I'd drop that on you. Thanks for
Very good.
listening, folks. Appreciate it very much.
Yep. Thank you very much, listeners, and we'll be back again soon.
Good night. The problem here is that we also have a drink package that went with this, so I can drink as much as I want, which in this case may not be a good thing.
No.